industry. We use a governance model akin to our own democracy, where everyone follows a set of rules, has the ability to vote and self-organize, and ultimately shares some responsibility for how the platform works. First, we have our content policy, fundamental rules that everyone on Reddit must follow. Think of these as our federal laws. We employ a group including engineers and data scientists, collectively known as the anti-evil team, to enforce these policies. Below that, each community creates their own rules, state laws, if you will. These rules, written by our volunteer moderators themselves, are tailored to the unique needs of their communities and tend to be far more specific and complex than ours. The self-moderation our users do every day is the most scalable solution to the challenges of moderating content online. Individual users play a crucial role as well. They can vote up or down on any piece of content, posts or comments, and report it to our anti-evil team. Through this system of voting and reporting, users can accept or reject any piece of content, thus turning every user into a moderator. The system isn't perfect. It's possible to find things on Reddit that break the rules, but its effectiveness has improved with our efforts. Independent academic analysis has shown our approach to be largely effective in curbing bad behavior. And when we investigated Russian attempts at manipulating our platform in 2016, we found that of all accounts that tried, less than 1% made it past the routine defenses of our team, community moderation, and simple downvotes from everyday users. We also constantly evolve our content policies. And since my return, we've made a series of updates addressing violent content, deepfake pornography, controlled goods, and harassment. These are just a few of the ways we've worked to moderate in good faith, which brings us to the question of what Reddit would look like without 230. For starters, we've been forced to defend against anyone with enough money to bankroll a lawsuit, no matter how frivolous. It's worth noting that the cases most commonly dismissed under 230 are regarding defamation. As an open platform where people are allowed to voice critical opinions, we'd be a prime target for these, effectively enabling censorship through litigation. Even targeted limits to 230 will create a regulatory burden on the entire industry, benefiting the largest companies by placing a significant cost on smaller competitors. While we have 500 employees and a large user base, normally more than enough to be considered a large company, in tech today we are an underdog compared to our nearest competitors, who are public companies 10 to 100 times our size. Still, we recognize that there's truly harmful material on the internet, and we are committed to fighting it. It's important to understand that rather than helping, even narrow changes to 230 can undermine the power of community and hurt the vulnerable. Take the opioid epidemic, which has been raised in discussions on 230. We have many communities on Reddit where users struggling with addiction can find support to help them on their way to sobriety. Where there are carve-out in this area, hosting them may simply become too risky, forcing us to close them down. This would be a disservice to people who are struggling, but this is exactly the type of decision that restrictions on 230 would force on us. Section 230 is a uniquely American law with a balanced approach that has allowed the internet and platforms like ours to flourish, while also incentivizing good faith attempts to mitigate the unavoidable downsides of free expression. While these downsides are serious and demand the attention of both us in industry and you in Congress, they do not outweigh the overwhelming good that 230 has enabled. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman. Ms. Citron, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you for having me and for having such a thoughtful bench with me on the panel. When Congress adopted Section 230 20 years ago, the goal was to incentivize tech companies to moderate content. And although Congress, of course, wanted the internet, what they could imagine it at that time, to be open and free, we also knew that openness would risk offensive material, and I'm going to use their words. And so what they did was devise an incentive, a legal shield for good Samaritans who are trying to clean up the internet, both accounting for the failure to remove, so under-filtering and over-filtering of content. Now, the purpose of the statute was fairly clear, but its interpretation, the words weren't. And so what we've seen are courts massively overextending Section 230 to sites that are irresponsible in the extreme and that produce extraordinary harm. We've seen the liability shield be applied to sites whose entire business model is abuse. So revenge porn operators and sites that all they do is curate users' deepfake sex videos, they get to enjoy immunity or have from liability. And interestingly, not only is it bad Samaritans who have enjoyed the legal shield from responsibility, but it's also sites that really have nothing to do with speech, that traffic in dangerous goods, like armslist.com. And the costs are significant. This overbroad interpretation allows bad Samaritan sites, reckless, irresponsible sites, to really have costs on people's lives. And I'm going to take the case of online harassment because I've been studying it for the past 10 years. The costs are significant, and especially to women and minorities. Online harassment that's often hosted on these sites is costly to people's central life opportunities. So when a Google search of your name contains rape threats, your nude photo without your consent, your home address because you've been doxxed, and lies, defamation about you, it's hard to get a job and it's hard to keep a job. And also for victims, they are driven offline in the face of online assaults. They're terrorized. They often change their names and they move. And so in many respects, the calculus, the free speech calculus, it's not necessarily a win for free speech, as we're seeing really diverse viewpoints and diverse individuals being chased offline. So now, the market, I think ultimately, is not going to solve this problem. So many of these businesses, they make money off of online advertising. And salacious, negative, and novel content, that attracts eyeballs. So the market itself, I don't think we can rely on to solve this problem. So of course, legal reform. The question is, how should we do it? I think we have to keep Section 230. It has tremendous upsides, but we should return it to its original purpose, which was to condition the shield on being a good Samaritan, on engaging in what Ben Wittes and I have called reasonable content moderation practices. Now, there are other ways to do it. In my testimony, I sort of draw out some solutions, but we've got to do something, because doing nothing has costs. It says to victims of online abuse that their speech and their equality is less important than the business profits of some of these most harmful platforms. Thank you.